They told him she could crush a man's spine by accident. They said her kind burned colonies with their bare claws. And yet, when Corporal Theo Mars looked up at that 8-foot alien warrior, he didn't see a monster. He saw a challenge. She was power incarnate, scales glinting under alien light, her eyes sharp as plasma. Every soldier backed away. But Theo? He smirked and said, "I've seen worse on date night." That moment changed everything. For her, for him, for the entire alliance. Hey there, legend. If stories about fearless humans and impossible odds give you chills, you're in the right place. Hit like to fuel more of these insane HFY tales, subscribe so you never miss one, and share this story with someone who believes humanity can outmatch any species, on or off the battlefield. All right, buckle in. This one's wild. They said she could tear through a battle mech with her bare claws. They said her skin could withstand plasma fire, and her voice alone could command armies. So when Shakura, the Dracon champion, walked into the embassy hall, every human soldier took a step back. Every human, except one. Corporal Theo Mars didn't retreat. He leaned against the rail, sipping his coffee, watching her like she was part of a museum exhibit. The alien guards bristled, her massive frame casting a shadow that swallowed him whole. She stood 8 feet tall, broad, armored in scale-bone plates that shimmered like liquid glass. Her claws flexed as she studied the small, fragile creature daring to hold her gaze. "You are very small," she said finally, her voice a low rumble that shook the air. Theo grinned. "You say that like it's a flaw?" Her head tilted. "It usually is." He shrugged. "Guess I ran out of flaws 2 wars ago." That answer caught her off guard. For a split second, the legendary Dracon warrior, who had crushed enemies, led fleets, and silenced entire systems, hesitated. And then, a sound no one had heard from her species before echoed through the hall. A low, strange growl that might have been laughter. 2 weeks earlier, Shakura had arrived as part of a rare peace initiative, a cultural exchange between humans and Dracons. Both sides hoped to prove coexistence possible. The humans offered diplomacy. The Dracons offered their tradition, the right of choice. It was ancient, a ritual where a Dracon warrior could select a mate from another species, if they found one brave enough to stand before them. Most humans laughed it off. Some fainted at the idea. One officer had tried to shake her hand and ended up with 3 cracked ribs. But Theo Mars? He walked in with a coffee mug and a terrible sense of humor. He had seen too many wars, too much loss. He'd stopped believing in monsters years ago, and maybe that's why he didn't flinch when he saw her. To him, she wasn't a beast. She was a challenge written in alien armor. Their first conversation became legend around the embassy. "Why do you stare?" she asked, eyes narrowing. "Trying to figure out if your armor's regulation issue or custom fit," he replied. Shakura blinked. "You mock me?" "Not at all. I just appreciate craftsmanship." It was madness. No one spoke to a Dracon warrior that way. Yet instead of anger, she leaned closer, her breath warm like engine heat, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "You do not smell like fear," she said quietly. "Ran out 2 wars ago," he replied. A few of the human diplomats whispered to each other, horrified. But Shakura's expression shifted into something else. Her lips curled in what might have been a grin, or a warning. "Good," she said. "I tire of fragile things." That evening, in the quiet corridors of the neutral zone, Theo found himself replaying her words. Fragile things. He wasn't fragile. But standing beside her, he couldn't help but feel small. Physically, sure, but not in spirit. Because while she was strength and fury embodied, he was the species that refused to bow. Humanity had survived worse odds. They'd faced extinction a dozen times and still found a way to laugh afterward. So when she walked by again, her armor faintly glowing under the embassy lights, Theo raised his cup. "See you tomorrow, tall girl," he said casually. She paused, turned, and stared at him for a long, silent moment. Her claws tapped against the floor, her tail swayed slightly, a Dracon gesture few humans understood. Then, Without a word, she nodded once and walked away. The guards exchanged glances. One muttered, "He's either suicidal or flirting." The other replied, "Maybe both." Later, as Theo sat alone in the rec room, a strange thought crossed his mind. What if she's not the monster they think she is? What if she's just tired too? That thought stayed with him. And when dawn came, and Shakura announced that she would begin the Trials of Worthiness, tests no human had ever survived, Theo was the first to volunteer. The hall went silent. "You?" a general stammered. "You're not even trained for that level of—" Theo just smiled. "Guess I'm about to find out." From across the room, Shakura turned her gaze on him. For the first time, something flickered behind those fierce golden eyes, something almost like respect. And so it began. The tale of the warrior and the fool, a story that would shake both their worlds. The next morning, the sky above the embassy burned crimson. Lightning danced across the alien clouds as the arena gates opened with a metallic roar. Shakura stood at the center, a titan wrapped in ceremonial armor made from the bones of extinct beasts. Her claws gleamed like blades. The air itself seemed to vibrate with her presence. Across from her stood Theo Mars, barely armored, half grinning, holding nothing but determination and a bad sense of timing. When she spoke, her voice echoed through the arena. "The first trial is strength." She tossed him a weapon, a Dracon warhammer nearly as heavy as he was. It slammed into the sand beside him, cracking the ground. Theo looked at it, sighed, and muttered, "Yeah, that tracks." He tried lifting it once, no luck. Twice, it barely moved. Then with a grunt that sounded like pure stubborn human spirit, he heaved it onto his shoulder and staggered a few steps forward. The Dracon crowd laughed, a deep, growling sound that shook the air. But Shakura didn't. She watched him silently. Finally, he dropped the hammer with a thud and said between breaths, "I call that round one." Shakura tilted her head. "You failed to strike." Theo smirked. "I lifted it. That's more than anyone else tried." A pause. Then, to everyone's shock, she nodded. Accepted. The second trial came under a storm. They were ordered to climb the cliffs behind the embassy, while artificial acid rain poured down. The Dracon warriors scaled it easily, claws digging into stone. Theo slipped twice, his hands raw, his skin burning. Each time, she caught him by the wrist, her strength effortless. "You fall easily," she teased. He coughed. "Yeah, but I also get up easily." She didn't answer, but there was a sound again, low and soft, that strange growl laugh she seemed to reserve only for him. By the time they reached the summit, his uniform was torn, his arms trembling. She looked at him curiously. "You persist, though you cannot win." Theo chuckled. Story of humanity. The final trial was compatibility. He blinked when she said it. "Define compatibility." Her eyes gleamed. "You'll know when I pin you." That didn't sound encouraging. What followed was chaos, half combat, half dance. She lunged, he dodged, she pinned him, he wriggled free. The audience didn't know whether to cheer or panic. When she finally caught him, both of them were laughing breathlessly. Pinned beneath her, Theo met her gaze. "So that mean I pass?" Her voice dropped low. "You survive. That is enough." That night, Theo lay on his cot, every muscle aching, when she entered his quarters. Ducking under the doorway, she brought a steaming bowl of something that smelled like motor oil and socks. "Fermented root stew," she said. "Heals wounds." He took a sip and grimaced. "This isn't another test, right?" She sat beside him. The bed groaned like a dying ship. "No test, just food." They sat in silence for a long while. Then she spoke, quietly. "You endured all trials. My people recognize your strength. You have earned the right to stand beside me." He hesitated. "Beside you as in—" Her lips curved faintly. "As my chosen." He blinked. "Is that like a girlfriend or more like a battle pact?" "Yes." He laughed softly. Well, guess I'm in. 3 days later, the ceremony took place aboard a neutral station orbiting a dying star. Human officials stood awkwardly among towering Dracon warriors. Shakura placed her clawed hand on Theo's chest. You are small, fragile, yet you walk beside me without fear. I name you Bonded One. Theo smiled, his hand resting on hers. You are terrifying, and I've never felt safer. The crowd fell silent as she leaned forward. Their kiss was careful, awkward even, but it sent a ripple through both species. Somewhere in the back, a human general muttered, "He's insane," another whispered, "or a genius." 6 months later, a shuttle landed on Earth. The ramp hissed open. Shakura stepped out first, a massive figure against the dawn, carrying a baby carrier slung over one shoulder. Inside was a small, tiger-striped infant with tiny horns and bright blue eyes. Theo followed, bruised and smiling proudly. She gave birth in orbit, he said to the stunned customs officer. Bit through the wall. The officer blinked. The wall? Yeah, Theo grinned. Good times. The baby sneezed and scorched a patch of concrete. Theo crouched, patting the child's head. Don't worry, she gets that from her mother. Shakura looked down at him, eyes soft. And her stubbornness, or she gets that from you. Theo smirked. Lucky kid. Across the stars they would speak of that day. The day a fragile human stood before a Dracon warlord and didn't a T-bow. They would say, only one man dared to mate with the 8-foot alien woman. But to Theo Mars it was never about courage or madness. It was about something simpler. He saw strength and didn't fear it. He saw difference and didn't hate it. He reached out, and in that moment humanity didn't just survive, it evolved. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't to fight an alien. It's to love one,